everyone, if you're new here, welcome to my channel, and if not, then welcome back to another one of my videos. So recently, I've kind of been running out of content ideas. Not too bad, but I feel like I just haven't been reading a lot, and so that's finally catching up to me, and I don't have a lot of books to talk about. So whenever I feel like that, I always do like a recent favorites wrap up. It's different from my monthly wrap up because that's mainly just like all the books that I read. These ones are just like my recent favorites. So these were the really good books that I really enjoyed in the recent months. So yeah, whenever I feel like I don't have a lot of things to talk about, a lot of books for a certain trope to recommend, I always pull out a recent faves video. So that's what we're doing today. I have a lot of videos that I want to film, a lot of books for tropes that I've been dying. So now I feel like I'm getting back to my regular content. So this feels like one of my first videos back, weirdly, but today we're going to be talking about my recent favorites. So these ones are ones that I really enjoyed. They're all above 4 stars and they were just really good and they've been on my mind a lot. So yeah, we're going to get into the video now. I think I have about 6 or so recommendations and just a little chitty chat about the recent books that I've loved. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. I hope you get some books to put on your TBR. If you did, please stick around, like, comment, and subscribe. And let's get into the video now. Okay, this one I want to talk about first because I just finished it this morning, and that is Bitter Secrets by Mia Knight. So this is the long-awaited sequel to Bitter Heat, and when I say long-awaited, I mean it was like 4 years, I think. So we finally got part 2, and it actually took me a while to read it. It's not available in Kindle Unlimited, so I decided to just buy it, and then I, for some reason, waited a bit after it arrived, and then I finally picked it up the other day, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm not going to say too much about my like thoughts for it because that will mainly come in my wrap up. I'll talk about the good, the bad, everything like that in my wrap up. I really enjoyed this one. It's, like I said, a sequel. So you meet Jasmine and Roth in the first book, and they just have such a tumultuous and toxic relationship. Like, it's truly fascinating the way that Roth just never gets over his ways. Like, he never changes, and that's not really a good thing because like he is super toxic and super manipulative and he never changes in the entire book. But then there's like tiny little parts, like one paragraph where he like actually says something truthful and you're like, oh my god, he's in love with her, and then the rest is just like, what is he doing? So it's one of those books, definitely like toxic and really like confusing to the reader too, because you don't know if you're supposed to like Roth. Like, he is such an anti-hero and it's so perplexing. Like, you want to like him because some of the stuff he does is not really swoony, but it's just like super aligned with what like a book boyfriend could be. But then there's sometimes that you're just like, what in the hell are you doing, Roth? Like, did you think this through? What are you doing? So yeah, it's a bit of a ride for the reader and for the characters, honestly. This one, like I said, it's the second book. So the first book is mainly like a marriage in trouble kind of like second chance thing because they were married and then they divorced. Then they met each other again, and you can't really say they got back together because like the entire time they weren't really together, but they were. And basically it's just them not really trying to repair anything, honestly. Roth basically just kidnaps her with no explanation for anything, and then she's stuck with him. But it has the feels of a marriage in trouble, second chance romance, and it is super angsty, especially book 1. So angsty, so much tension. And book 2, honestly, I don't think you should read this unless you love the characters, because if you don't like the characters, then this will literally just be characters and super boring for you. But in the second book, it's also a lot of tension, a lot of like back and forth, a lot of back and forth, and I actually really enjoyed it. So like I said, finished it this morning. I'm gonna give it 4.25 stars, but yeah, I really enjoyed it and I'll definitely think about it for a while. Unfortunately, we don't get the next book for another while. I think Mia Knight has some other books to release before she finishes this Singed series, but apparently there's 4 books in this series and possibly a 5th, which I don't know how I feel about that, but we will see when it comes up. Next up is another one that I read super recently, about 2 weeks ago, and that is Hawk by Jessie Hall. So I saw this one doing its rounds, you know. More to Mary first talked about this one, and then after that I saw it everywhere. So I picked it up. I had known a little bit about it before everyone started reading it, and I just didn't put it on my TBR because I thought it would be too new adult for me, which is interesting, but it totally wasn't. So yeah, when I saw everyone picking it up, I was like, okay, I'll join in on the hype. And when I started reading it, I was just like, oh, I totally see what everyone meant. This is so good. The tension and the angst and the forbiddenness is so there. It was amazing. And yeah, I just loved it. It was such a solid book and it definitely will stick with me. So this follows Nicole and Hawk, or as his real name actually is, Cameron, which I actually love that. I love the name Cameron. Nicole is dating somebody. I don't even remember his name. He was that inconsequential. And Hawk all of a sudden like moves into their house just after getting out of prison because apparently Nicole's boyfriend owes him or something. And from there, they're just like skirting around each other because obviously they're roommates now, but she's in a relationship. He's just like recovering, trying to get a job after prison, and just being his usual hawk self. So for like a good majority of the book, they're skirting around each other. They know they have something there. There's a connection, there's tension, and they're just literally dodging each other, acting like it's not there, but it totally is. And after a while, it kind of boils over. And then you really get to see like Hawk going back into society, like Nicole realizing why he went to prison, why he's so scarred, why he's a bit of a tortured hero, and why he has so much baggage in his past. And so the relationship part kind of wraps up at like 75%, and then you get to see a bit of character growth and development, and I actually really like that because I feel like it tied up the story quite well. Plus I really enjoyed the characters, so it was fine. Hawk is definitely at the top of the list for a lot of people's book boyfriend lists, and that is extremely valid. I don't know if he's on mine because like I don't know what my book boyfriend list is, but if I did have one, he would probably be on it. Maybe not the top, but at least he'd be on it. Next I want to talk about Blood of My Monster by Rena Kent, and this one is her something monster series, like my monster series, I have no idea, but this one is her first book and it's a trilogy. And the heroine in this one is in the army, the Russian army, and she's pretending to be a man because obviously women aren't allowed in the Russian army, so she has to go undercover and try to be a man. And so I just thought that was a super intriguing plot line. I was like, ooh, that's really unique and I like that. I want to give it a shot. So I picked it up, and I will say I didn't think it was Rena Kent's best writing, but I did find the storyline and plot very addictive. I think this was Rena Kent's first attempt at slow burn, and like I said, I don't think it's her best, but I felt very addicted to the fast plot line of this. Even though the relationship doesn't progress very quickly, I think the plot in this one does, so that was a great balance for me. And yeah, I found it really addicting, and I read it in like 3 sittings, I think. Super addicting, pretty fast paced plot wise, and I just like always wanted to get back to reading it. So like I said, the heroine is undercover in the army and she falls in love with her like superior. I really don't know what he would be called, I guess like a captain. And then after they kind of have this like connection kind of thing, she begs him to take her to New York to be a part of like the mafia there and be in the army for the mafia, which was an interesting crossover because you go from like the actual like government army to then the Bratva, and I was just like, oh, okay. So it was pretty fun. Like I said, there's a lot of plots. So there's a lot of plot twist for the Bratva and when they get to New York, what happens there. And I enjoyed it, and I am also anticipating the next book. So I rated it about 4 stars. It's not phenomenal, but I found it a really solid read. And like I said, it was really addicting to me for some reason. I just could not put it down. I wanted to get to more of it. And I did find that even though it was a little bit of slow burn, the chemistry and the tension between the 2 characters was really great. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is Kingdom Fall by A. Zavarelli. I don't know if you could tell, but I've been on a mafia kick recently. I just want to read like everything mafia right now. It doesn't matter what kind of mafia. It could be Bratva, any other mafia names, because somehow they just escaped my mind. Yeah, it doesn't matter what kind of mafia it is. I just want to read it. So this one is one of the more unique ones that I read. It's a nanny romance, and I'm not a huge fan of nanny romances, but I didn't know that when I read this, so I read it and I actually really enjoyed it. The heroine in this one is nonverbal, but she's just so incredibly strong, and that combination to me, I don't know, I just thought she was an amazing heroine. There is some twists and turns from her that I was not expecting, but anyway, she goes to the job interview. He is like, wow, you can see she's feisty, and there's something about her, so I wanted to look after my son. And so she becomes just a nanny for a while, and then more stuff starts to develop. The hero in this one is really struggling to connect with his son, and she just helps him with that, and he's just like, how did you do that? And she's just like, well, you ask him how his day went. And he's like, oh, it was kind of funny, honestly. But it really helps develop their connection. And I don't know, it was really beautiful. I don't think I'd say that. Like, it's a nanny romance. I don't usually like single parent, but it was really beautiful. This one is a standalone, even though it's in a series of a bunch of other books with a bunch of other authors. It is a standalone. It's pretty thick, too. I think it's 400 pages or just over. And at the end, there is a lot of twists and turns. And I say that in a good way. Like, I enjoyed the twists and turns. I couldn't see them coming, but I enjoyed them. And I think it's a very realistic romance. Like, there's a bit of hate to love in this. It's forced proximity, workplace romance, nanny romance, single parent, all of those. And I just think it was really good. I feel like it's also pretty underrated, like, for a nanny romance and like mafia romance and forced proximity, like all the tropes I just listed. I never hear anyone talk about it. I've only seen a few booktubers recommend it, only seen it a few times on Bookstagrams. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, I really think you should pick it up because it was super good. The last one I want to talk about is actually a series, but I'm only going to highlight my 2 favorites from it because some of them I did rate 3 stars and they weren't my favorite. So my 2 favorite ones from the Perfectly Imperfect series by Neva Altaj was Hidden Truths and Broken Whispers. Let's start with Broken Whispers because I think that one comes first. I'm actually confusing the books in my mind right now, so I'm like struggling to remember which one this was, but I just remember that the connection between Mikhail and Bianca, I think her name is, or like Brianna, I don't remember, was amazing. All the characters in the series have gone through so much, but they are so loving with each other and they're perfectly what each other needs, and they are soulmates. You cannot convince me otherwise. Even though I didn't like some of the characters or the couples, I still think they were like great for each other, perfect for each other, whatever. Mikhail and B, we're gonna call her because I don't remember what her full name is. I just think that they, yeah, like I said, were perfect for each other. They blended so beautifully. They had such a connection and it was just amazing. So this one is an arranged marriage, a bit of an age gap, and there is another trope in this one that you only figure out at like 15%, so it's not huge spoilers, but still, it was a trope that I wasn't expecting, but it wasn't a bad I wasn't expecting. So I'm not gonna say that trope, I'm gonna leave it be. So Mikhail is part of the Bratva and he's like very invested in it. I don't know why, but he was always a character that was like running around doing shit for the mafia. I was like, buddy, take a break. But anyway, B moves in after they get married, and from there it's just like this forced proximity thing with a lot of tension. He is a bit of a scarred hero, not too much, like not as much as the other one that I can't wait to talk about, but he definitely has some baggage and he's got a lot going on, and I don't know, they just have a beautiful like symphony for each other. They're so perfect, and yeah, that's all I can really say for that one. I gave this one like 4.25 stars I think, but the one that I gave 4.5 stars was Hidden Truths by Neva Altaj, and this one is a captive romance. It's a bit of a kidnapping romance with a very scarred hero and a tortured hero as well, and the heroine who is just everything that he needs. So perfect for him, very strong, very feisty, and extremely funny. So the hero in this one, Sergey, I'm not sure, he's Russian, has a bloodlust, let's just call it that. So when he blows up a building, he's just like all happy with himself, like, oh, I just blew up a building, but then he sees this girl and he's like, oh fuck, there's a girl that I almost blew up. So he like takes her, and instantly, because of his like past and what he's gone through, he's just like, I need to protect you. So he tells his boss like, it's okay, I'll take her home, and everyone's just like, no the fuck you won't, like hold on, we gotta fear for this girl's safety here. He takes her home to his like really quirky funny home with his roommate, and I love that. And after she recovers, he keeps her captive because she has secrets and he wants to know. The secrets aren't even that big, but he's just like, you're hiding something from me and I'm gonna find it. And after a while he just notices that she like soothes him, and I feel like that's the perfect word. She just soothes everything about him, makes him feel happy, makes him smile, makes him laugh, all of that, and he's just like, you're never leaving my side. And she's just like, I need to escape, buddy. And she's tried so many times too, and he just laughs at her, and it's pretty funny. But they end up getting their happily ever after, and they definitely, like I said, soothe each other. Like, she is just everything he needs, and they are a combo that is beautiful and perfect, and I loved it. This was definitely my favorite in the series. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I love it. Alright everyone, those are all my recent favorites that came to mind when I thought of this video. A lot of them I actually read this month, and it's always weird doing a recent faves video before a wrap up. So if you want to see my like in-depth pros and cons to each book, all my ratings and everything, stay tuned for my February reading wrap up, which is actually coming really soon because like February only has 28 days. I don't always love that, but anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got another book to put on your TBR. As always, my links are down in the description. You can find my email, my Goodreads, my Instagram, and all of that. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video very soon.